Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. So today we're going to talk to you about capos. Now some of you are going to be like, boo, capos, right? Well, hey, you know what? They are useful tools, okay? You can't always use bar chords or alternate voiced chords in songs with people who are not using those, okay? So if they're using a capo, and you don't want to use a capo, you don't always get to use those alternate voicings and have the song actually sound right. I mean, there are a lot of exceptions, don't get me wrong, but some songs you got to actually use a capo with, you know. And there are songs where if you're playing like basic chordings, like, you know, G, C, G, and the other guy's using a capo, well, that's fine because you're playing it in the key of G, he's playing it in a different key that goes together, and you're still doing your basic chords. Now, that's fine. When you want to use an alternate voice chord, you know, like replace that D with a bar chorded D or a bar G or whatever, it's not going to sound right. So, yeah, capos are a really good invention. But they do have good and bad and ugly to them, okay? With electric guitars, they're probably one of the most susceptible guitars to sounding like they're out of tune big time when using a capo. Part of that is because one of the most popular selling capos has actually been the Kaisers. Now, they make these for electrics and acoustics. You can flip the boot like I did on this one, but the amount of pressure that is on there is ridiculous for an electric guitar. Whether it's got skinny little frets or it's got fat frets, doesn't matter. It's just ridiculous tension for an electric, because electrics have a lot less string tension, and the strings are generally a lot closer too to the fretboard than what acoustics generally are, okay? But just absolutely ridiculous amount of tension. So the Kaiser is, to me, it's not a very good option for an electric guitar player, because you are definitely going to be way out of pitch. Like, if you just use this as an example of keeping it simple, especially for those of you who don't know anything about theory or key changing, okay, let's put this and let's have it as F sharp, okay? Because when you're playing a bar chord, you know, you go from an F to an F sharp to a G, G sharp, and so on. So we're going to say this is F sharp, right? And we're going to play a C. Now, even though that sounds good, if you put it with somebody else playing a C chord or a alternate chord without a capo that would be the same chord, okay, you're going to sound like crap, okay? Not to mention, your tuning is probably just been compromised. So let's check, because I actually tuned my Les Paul just before starting this video. Yep, it did. It overstretched my strings. Now my E is flat. My A is not bad. D's flattened out. G is just a bit unstable there. B was out a bit. My high E seems okay. That quickly will the Kaiser screw up your guitar. Now, take a capo like this D'Addario, okay? This is adjustable tension, okay? So we'll do the same thing. Put it on there. Now, I'm also fretting my notes very lightly, too, because I know not to put a lot of pressure. Okay, now let's take that off. And I only set the pressure enough on the D'Addario so that my strings are proper right to the 5th fret. Fine. 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 Well, a little high. G's good. B is just a little bit. bad. Only one string get affected. So now we move on to the adjustable capo. Okay, another version. Now that's a spring-loaded adjustable. This is just one where you alter the tension. So what we want to do here, hit your string, listen for deadness and buzz, right there. So that's good. Now, with one of these style of adjustable capos, you can't set it for the 5th fret like you can with the D'Addario because it's a spring-loaded system where it's still a clamp, right? This, you set it for each one. So let's take off the capo. Now let's check, again, what our tuning is like. I don't know how well you're going to see this in the camera, but... that's pretty acceptable. Okay. Now we have this capo. Very similar idea to the skull-fingered one. Okay. It uses a screw clamp system. You know, the spring is to keep it open, not close it. Same thing. Now let's see what we got to do to get rid of dead strings. That's really dead. Check tuning again. That brought my whack down. So it whacked out a couple strings a little bit with that particular capo. Now that was only $5 plus shipping for that one. I don't remember what this one cost, but it's pretty expensive in comparison. I actually really love this capo because it's very sensitive in its adjustments, and it's got really nice pads on it. Whereas this cheap Alice capo, which there will be a review coming up on it, the rubber is a little bit stiffer, I think, than what that is. And you got to put a lot more force on this one to get it to bite properly across. So that's kind of a, you know what I mean? Whoops. The D'Addario, on the other hand, I mean, it's a really good capo. You know, it does affect a little bit, but that's backed off all the way now. So now if I go to my 5th fret with no pressure on it, actually still really good. Seventh fret. That's what we're going to have to adjust tension. So we're good to the 5th fret easy. Let's try the 6th. We're still pretty okay on the 6th. Now that's no pressure. When we first used that D'Addario, there was pressure on it set up. So So with no pressure on the D'Addario, on the spring load, your guitar is still really good tune. It's fine. Okay. With the Mew Mew Skullfinger Capo, that thing is like really good. Okay. And very sensitive for adjustments, which is what you want. The Alice Capo kind of failed a little bit. And Kaiser Capo definitely flopped. Now, the thing about Kaiser Capos, you do have to flip the boot to the narrower side of grip, otherwise it's way too tight for an acoustic. But acoustics that have like a thin medium fret or a skimpy fret, these are probably going to be your best with, okay? I use this a lot for a long time. But now I'm using the D'Addario most of the time, or I'll use my Skull Capo, depending on what I'm doing. But when I'm at church now, I actually use this one because then I set it up for the guitar that I'm using, which is usually the Les Paul now, most of the time. I make sure it's set up with the right tension so I can take it on and off for different songs that I have to play with the rest of the band, and I don't lose my tuning, right? So if I add a little bit of pressure on there, you know, and it doesn't take much, it's going to throw it off, as we've seen from the first time to the second time with no pressure. With no pressure, it doesn't throw it off, and we're good up to the 6th fret, which is good. Generally, you shouldn't have to use a capo past the 5th, depending on your singers. And a reason for using a capo, too, is to get along with your singers in the key range that they can sing in. It's not always about a guitar player's so-called lack of skill. I have a lot of skill at guitar, a lot. And I can play bar chords, power chords, whatever I want, right? But there are songs where I have to actually use the capo, right? And because to do the same key but using power chords or bar chords type of deal, those chord voicings don't get along with a lot of the songs, right? There are songs they will, which is fine, but the majority of the songs it doesn't get along with. So using the capo, great. Or a lot of times I can play in an alternate key with no capo while our worship leader uses a capo. And that's happened quite frequently too, that I can get away without using the capo at all. Which sometimes I actually like that, you know, but capo is really handy for a lot of different things to get alternate sounds too that you normally wouldn't be able to get with using alternate chords, right? So if you wanted to get, I don't know, I'm not even going to go through major examples here, but, you know, if you want to get a sound like this, okay, normally you would have to bar that, right? Which is fine, you can bar that chord. But you're still limited to 3 fingers usable when you're using a bar chord. Because this finger's, your first finger is taken up for the bar. Because all the bar is a new placement of a nut, right? To a certain point, okay, it is. But when you use the capo on your fretboard, which a lot of guys say, ooh, capos. Well, now you've got access to 4 fingers. Okay, 4-finger access. Wait a minute, that's a whack load more chords I can do now that I couldn't do before under alternate chords without a capo. So capos are quite useful. So if anybody tells you that capos are garbage and they're for wussies and people who can't play, tell them to basically go get stuffed, because I do, you know, because capos are actually quite useful. However, when it comes to a capo, you need the right capo for your guitar. The Les Paul has some pretty fat frets on it. You require a capo that has some form of adjustable tension. If you want to get in and off the capo quick and dirty from one fret to another, I would recommend the D'Addario with the spring load, okay? Definitely a great capo, worth every penny. If you don't mind taking your time and you have time to take, get this type of a capo. Whether it's in a Mew Mew Skullfinger, it doesn't matter. An adjustable capo, but a good quality one, is the very important part. And we will be talking about the Alice in another video, but we've already seen for ourselves so far that the Alice requires a lot more attention and still whacks your guitar out of tune. So, yeah, anyway. And Kaiser, stay away from. I've got many other Capos kicking around here too. I'm a bit of a collector freak when it comes to gear, and I like to try new gear out all the time because, you know, something may be cheap, but it's also going to be really good. Sometimes it's actually really bad. Sometimes expensive, like the Kaiser Capos. They're expensive, but they're good only on certain guitars. They're definitely useless on electric guitars because they just knock you right out all the time, no matter what guitar it is. So if you want to see a Strat or a Tele with tuning issues, use a Kaiser on it and see how fast you go out of tune. That's it, guys. That's all I got for you. So this was just to talk about capos and, you know, what they're for, you know, a little bit, and what good capos actually are compared to maybe not so good. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.